All right, class 13. For all intents and purposes, this is kind of like the last lecture class. The very final class is just going to be looking at your work thusly far and making sure everyone has everything in and what have you. So for this final class, basically it's going to be photograph retouching. Okay, so usually when people say something is photoshopped, what they mean is basically that that you take, a picture of somebody and then you just make them a better version of themselves, right? Better being obviously subjective. But that's the idea, right? So you can take imperfections or what you perceive as imperfections and take them away or adjust things and shift them around. Most photos you see of celebrities, right? That's not what they actually look like. They actually look quite a bit different. And it's funny because if you see a comparison of like the edited photos versus like the actual ones, the edited ones you start to realize look very strange. Like they're actually way off. But that's kind of what you're doing. What I would say, as far as like photo retouching is concerned is, it's better to, most of the time I say go too far and bring it back. But in this case, it's actually better to not go too far with it because you actually start to lose the person. And it can not be great. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to edit a photo in front of you and retouch a photo. And then from there, you guys will see what you need to do. So I'm just going to use this one here. The techniques that I'm using are primarily from this channel, the Flern channel. So I already embedded some of them, these ones here, which you may or may not find useful. But Flern basically is a YouTube channel. There's a bunch of these on there, but I like Flern in particular. I think they're really good instructors. They actually have a subscription plan that you can get these tutorial videos from them and what have you. But they basically what they do is they show you how to do things like edit photos and such, but like in the standard like professional way. It's not just like, oh, let's just throw these things together. Like they have like interesting little tips and tricks and things like that. So if this is something that you're really into, I highly suggest looking through a bunch of their videos. And even for the assignment, I would basically go through and see if there's any of these that will particularly be applicable to you. But yeah, so anyway, really good YouTube channel. Highly suggest them. So most of what I'm going to be doing is there. So I'm just going to click on this to download this picture. So I guess we'll just save it, and then I'm going to have to unzip it. Now, if you're on a Mac, you can just double click it, but if you're on a PC, this is the one thing actually Macs I think are better about. And boop, there we go. So I'm going to take that, and I'm just going to open that in Photoshop. Let me see. Open with, and we'll do Adobe 2020. And so I am not a photographer, so I don't have a lot of really good photos. So I'm just going to use a wedding photo from the last time I smiled, really. But we're just going to wait for this to load up. And there we go. So I'm still in that timeline view, so I'm just going to switch this back to Essentials by going up here. It's just a quick way of doing it. All right. Cool. I hate all these like cloud things. I don't want to share any of that. Thank you. Come on. Oh, yeah, clicking the wrong one. Sorry, that was the share button. That's why. All right. So I got this photo, and basically you can see there's me. Okay. So one of the things that you may have noticed is this. So a lot of times people what they want to do is they want to like clear the skin up. And as you can see, I was very nervous. A lot of acne and redness and what have you, right? So what I want to do though is I want to try and fix that a little bit. But what ends up happening oftentimes when we do this is that people will end up getting this very airbrushed look, and it just doesn't look good. It loses all the texture. A really good example actually is my wife over here. Because see her freckles? When we were younger, my mom paid the church, decided they were going to do these like family photos, and she paid extra money to have them photoshopped. Well, what was funny is, they did an okay job, but the picture of her in it they took all of her freckles out. Like she just was, which was weird looking because she's more freckles than woman. So anyway, so yeah, so that's one of those things where like that's part of who they are, to a large extent. And I really want to drive this home with you. It's our imperfections that make us look unique and interesting, and it's actually when you like somebody, when you have an attraction for somebody, the things that you are most attracted to are not the parts that are perfect. It's actually the parts that are imperfect, because that's what separates them from other people. So like her freckles, right? That would be something to me that would be drawn to. So to have them removed is such a weird, it's a large part of who she was or is. Anyway, now that being said, my acne I don't think is necessarily a thing I really want to keep. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a way to do what we're going to call high frequency separation. So instead of just straight up like, taking blur and trying to blur out like things where it starts to get this like very soft look and it just looks unnatural, it doesn't have any texture. What I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this into 2 layers. So what you want to do is I'm going to unlock this bottom layer. I'm going to just rename this one. We'll call it original, right? So it's always good to keep an original version of whatever you're doing. And then I'll make a newer version. Oops, not like that. Sorry. I'm going to hit Control J for the duplicate. We're going to call this color. And then make another version. We're going to call this texture. Keep clicking the stupid thing. I don't know what I'm thinking here. So Control J, and we're gonna call this one, we're gonna call it texture. All right. So these are what we're gonna do. All right. So first what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna turn this one off just to make sure we don't mess with it. So make sure on that layer, have this one visible. Nothing else is visible. You're gonna go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Okay. So what you want to do is we want to blur enough that we basically, the part that you want to become texture is how far you want to blur. So in our case, 6.6 is way too much. So I'm going to bring this down to, I want to get rid of basically to where I lose my texture. So let's say you want to make it as not blurry as possible, but like get rid of like the skin texture more or less, because that's kind of what I'm after, is to keep the skin texture but be able to remove the color. Okay, because this is going to represent our color part of this. Then we'll hit OK. Great. Now you're going to click the layer above, which is texture. Go ahead and select that one. And we're going to go ahead and go layer. Where are you? I always have a hard time finding this. Should be under layer. Apply image. There we go. Sorry. So it was image, apply image. I don't know why I thought it was in layer, because I guess it's doing it to this. Anyway, so source, yeah. So it says layer right now is doing merge. I actually don't want that one. I want to compare it to the color. So this layer, okay. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to do the difference of what this image currently is to what this one is, and then only store that information here. So we're going to say color. The blending mode we want to do is subtract. And then the scale is going to be 2. And this is going to be 128. Oops, not 20. There you go, like that. Okay, now the way I got these numbers is that I saw them somewhere. They're just math. But basically what it's going to do is it's going to look at the difference between this image here and the one compared to this one. And then we'll hit OK. Boom. And so now what you'll notice is there's no color information, right? Because this had the same color as that. But now what it has is it has the texture information, because this one's blurry. So if I get real close, you'll be able to see, oh, that's too much, just sort of like the lines and the dots and the imperfections, especially on her. You'll be able to see like her freckles are more or less kind of stored in there, okay? Which is pretty good, okay. But obviously that is not quite doing it. So what we got to do is have this selected. We want to change the blending mode to linear light. Okay. Now what I want to show you is you're like, oh, it looks exactly the same. But that's with the two of them combined. So without this layer, it's blurry. With this layer, it becomes sharp. So these layers combined, this texture and this color one, is equivalent to just the original. So what we did in essence is that we separated this image into the color part of it and the texture part of it. And now what I can do is try to fix some of those things that I'm not like super duper happy with, okay? For the most part, that's going to be kind of, you know, some of the shininess and the redness and you know, purpleness, like the bags and things like that. So I'm going to remove that using the color. And then when I want to remove imperfections, like maybe like freckles and, you know, other things, I can use the texture one. So I'm going to have the color selected. And then I'm not going to touch her because I'm not dumb. And I'm going to try and fix it. So I'm going to use primarily over here, I'm going to use the patch tool. Okay. And what we're going to do is, oops, that was too much. Make sure, I don't see anything up there. Okay, I'm going to go like this, and I'm bring this over here, and then you're going to see it's going to get rid of some of that. So if I do Control Z, Control Z, so see what that looks like now, and see how I kind of smoothed that out, right? And so I'm going to try and take where like it's a little bit shiny, pull this over here. Kind of get rid of some of that. All right, maybe get rid of some of that purple. Oops, not a big fan of that one. That didn't look so good. This is a little bit of a hot spot, so I'm going to try and maybe use that instead. So get rid of that. All right, but I'm going to try and take patches that are alike and try to match them together so that you get something that's a little bit cleaner. Just to make the skin, more or less what I'm trying to do is get rid of the blotchiness. So it's not quite so blotchy. So this is kind of a dark shadow. Oops, I didn't want to grab the eyebrow. It's kind of a dark shadow area. Let me bring that up there, smooth that out a little. This is, grab too much. There we go, pull that down here. Ugh, I want you gone. There we go. So you see, I was able to get rid of the redness, but notice that if we look close, you can still see I still have the wrinkles of my neck, right? So I can kind of basically, what I'm doing is more or less kind of smoothing. Oops, see if you get too close, I go right to the edge line there, so then it kind of cut into it. I don't like the way that looked. Let's go this way maybe. That's a little better. So you see like it's kind of red right there, so maybe bring that up there to bring that back a little bit. That's a little unnatural, but I want that gone. Maybe go down instead. This is looking a little blotchy. But basically this will allow me to sort of, a little bit spotted there, get rid of some of the blotchiness while maintaining, you know, some of the other stuff here. So, and I can kind of get rid of some of this. Okay. But just an example, like if I go over here, let's say I want to get rid of the shine spot. You see, I got rid of the shine, but notice that it kept the freckles, right? Which is awesome. That'd be really hard to do by hand. Now, obviously, it's not quite as strong, the freckles, but they are still there. So it's much better than trying to do it, you know, through like some sort of airbrushing or like crappy. Oops, just gotta be careful not to do such a bad job. Okay. Oops. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select this one and this one. I'm gonna group those together. Okay. Turn this one on, and so you can see. I basically got rid of all of the shiny spots, so it's not such a high shiny look to it. Okay, so some other things I want to do are get rid of, let's say, the redness. So if you see I got like red right here, I got some red going on in here, a lot of red in my nose area, right? Now I can try to like sample other areas and bring those in, and that would be fine. Still pretty blotchy, but what would be nice is actually to get rid of that red area. I want to get rid of this red. So I'm going to take this and I want to go on the color layer. Okay. And I want to basically remove some of this stuff. So a real easy way of doing it is to use our adjustment layers, right? So I'm going to go to adjustments and I'm going to do hue saturation. And it's going to give me that hue saturation layer. Now, there's a nice little trick you can do here where we take the master and we switch it to reds, because reds is what I'm trying to affect. but I can't tell exactly what reds it's affecting. But if I take the saturation and drive it all the way up, I can see all the reds that are in the my scene here, okay, or my picture. So what I'm going to do is that this is what it's affecting. So if I slide this way, you can see it's going to start to get the reds more on the purple end, and this is going to start to get into the yellow end, right? But what I can do is I'm going to bring it back so it's more in there, and then I can actually adjust this further by grabbing these areas. So this center area is what is absolutely being selected, and the outside areas are basically the feathering. So you can see quite a bit of red in some of these areas, right? So I'm going to try and do that, and we'll say that that's good. I'm going to take my saturation, and I'm just going to bring that back down to 0, so that way I don't see it. And now what you'll notice is, if I go, like, let's say like this, it'll turn those areas green or purple or whatever else you want. So what I'm going to do is I basically just want to take those and just bring them to the left a little bit. No, sorry, to the right a little bit, to bring it back a touch. Let's say like that, okay? So it's just going to bring down some of it. So you can see, like, this was a little bit red, this was a little bit red. Now it is affecting areas I don't want it to. So like my lips, they seem almost pale now. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to select this, the actual mask. I'm going to use my brush here. I'm going to make sure I'm painting black, and I'm going to use a soft round brush, and I'm just going to paint black. Let me see. Paint black where my lips are so that they are luscious. Everybody likes luscious lips. So for instance with her too, I would paint this black and here, and that way I could get some of that red back. So where you want the red, you can bring it back, but so you can see with and without. And notice that the lips don't change now, but I was able to temper down a little bit of you know, the red areas in here and some of the other areas. Okay, so it's a nice little thing. I'm just going to go ahead and make that permanent, and I'm just going to right click on top of that saturation layer and just hit merge down, and that'll just merge it down into the layer underneath, and that way it's on there and I don't have to worry about it getting weird. Okay, so there's some other things I don't like too. So you can see, like, I have these little bumps, and some of these moles I'm not super happy with. So I could get kind of rid of some of those as well. Like there's a bump there, some skimming imperfections, but those are textural elements. So I'm gonna just go to the texture here. I'm gonna do the same thing I did before. I'm just gonna actually, instead of using this one, I'm just gonna use the spot healing, and I'm just gonna bloop, and then you can see that's gone, right? And I can go like this, and let's see, it gets it gone a little bit, but like this little dot here, I'm not super happy with. This I'm not happy with. Probably get rid of that. There you go. Right, so you can see it'll clean up some of those things. Some of them we might actually have to do on the color as well. So I got a few too many in here too. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of some of that. Let's go back to texture, and I just want to get rid of basically the little imperfections. And I wonder if I went like this with that, if that would, it's a little better. Okay. But you don't want to go too nuts with it. It's better to not go too far. So again, oops, let's do this. So, right, so it's just getting rid of some of the shininess, and some of the acne and what have you, right? So I could probably obviously do a little bit better of a job. There's definitely some areas like right there looks a little bit weird that I could probably clean up. There's a little bit of blotchiness here that I'm also not super happy with, that I would just keep doing the patch tool and fixing that up as well. Yeah, so anyway, we're gonna call that good as far as some of that stuff is concerned. Now another thing that's super useful that I like to do is this. So I'm going to take these two and I'm just going to merge these together. So I'm going to right click on this and go ahead and merge down. So now that's one picture, and I'm just going to click and drag it so it's out of this group. Select the group, just hit delete. Okay, so it's called color, but we'll just whatever. All right, so this is also useful. So another thing that people like or don't like is they don't like to have bags, right? So mine don't look too bad. My brothers used to call me Bilbo for like Bilbo Baggins. So anyway, not that great. So real obvious fix, right, is to just do the patch tool, and I could go like grab the bag, pull it underneath, and boom, it's gone. But it looks a little bit weird, right? Let me put that one back. This one might be a little bit more obvious, right? Because you don't want the crow's feet. So I could take it, go, yeah. But without it, it's a little unnatural. I would rather it was like 50%. Well, there's actually a really neat thing you can do, which is this. So let's say I grab this. What I could do is go like this, okay? And then you can do view, and then you can turn off extras. Now that is still there. It's just you can't see it now by going to view extras, turns it off. So it's Control H, okay? Turns it off so I can see what I'm doing. And then what you can do is go to edit, and then you'll see fade, Control Shift F, okay? What fade does is it literally blends the action that you just did. So watch, if I click on this now, it's going to give me the slider, and watch. If I slide this to 0, it's going to be like I did nothing, and if I slide it to 100, it's going to do that action. If I slide it, 50%, it's going to be half and half, and if as I go this way, it becomes more, and this way it becomes less. And this way what I can do is do the action, but then kind of like, like maybe take it out a little bit, but not go too nuts. Like so. And I could do this one too. Take this right there. I'm just going to hit Control H. And then I think if you hit Control H on a Mac, that's like a hotkey or something, and it might ask you which one you meant to do, and you just say whatever. And then it was Control Shift F, which is fade. And then I can just take this and give myself some of my bags back, because that's part of who I am, right? Don't tell me how to be. And then we'll say yay, and we'll hit OK. Yay, right? And that works with anything. Like I'm doing it with this, but watch. Let's say I draw a stroke here. Let's see. Why am I not getting... let's try... Let's just do like red. Brush. Normal. Opacity. Flow. I wonder if it's because... Is it looking for a tablet? Wonder why it's not... Pencil tool? Oh, because it's still selected. So I have to hit Control D to clear my selection. That's why it wasn't working. I just couldn't see the... Because remember, if you have... this was why. Just so you get the idea. If you have something selected, it will only work in that area, right? But I didn't see that it was on. Oops. So like, see how it's not working? That's why it wasn't working. I was like, why is it not working? So I'm hitting Control D to clear that out. So even if I go like this, let's say I draw on it, if I hit that Control Shift F, the fade tool, so it's just edit, fade, and it'll say fade whatever, you can even do it to that. So any single action that you do, if you want to just do a piece of it, like have it do a little bit, you can just do it that way. So I can fade this in and out, and then hit OK. I'm just going to undo that. Okay, so that's what that does. Yay! All right, so that's a super useful thing. You can find all sorts of uses for that besides just this editing thing. You could use that. I would use that all the time personally. But okay, so the other thing I want to do is this. So one of the things that we find attractive is actually symmetry in the face. Symmetry in the face shows basically health, and if you look, you may or may not notice, but my eyes, let me see, they're not symmetrical. Right? Yeah, I got a bit of the Quasimodos, if you will. So basically, the more healthy you are in the womb, typically the more symmetrical you'll be as an adult. And I don't think I was that healthy in the womb, apparently. So what I want to do is I want to make my face a little bit more symmetrical. And this is actually, you see this in celebrity things quite a bit. So in celebrity Photoshop. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to use the liquify for this. So we're going to go to Filter, Liquify. Now, I would tell you on this one in particular to be real, like, cautious with it. If you go too nuts, you're definitely going to lose the person, and it's not going to look real good. No, it's a little too far. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is actually mask things out by using the Freeze Mask tool here. Okay, and what I want to do is I just want to lift this eye up so it matches this one. And one of the things I need to have happen is basically this. So I want to mask out everything that I don't want to affect, like so. Okay. Oh, that was really slow. All right, just an area so that way, hopefully it comes back. There it goes. So it doesn't accidentally affect any of the other stuff. Okay, so now I can move this up. What I don't want to do is leave this open, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this smudge tool. I'm going to take the density all the way up, basically. What I don't want to do, and I use brackets just like you use for the brush to make it bigger and smaller. If I went like this, and I try to move something up, see how it moves the background too? That's the whole thing where you see someone, and they're like 13, they take a picture of themselves, right? They do a selfie, and the door frame is all warped with their body because they squish and squash things. You want to freeze it so that I don't accidentally warp anything in the background. I'm going to turn show backdrop off so that way I don't see what's behind me. It'll just show what we're working on. So I'm just going to take this eye and I'm just going to shift it up a little. Like so. And let's bring that down a little. Okay. And then I'm just going to go ahead and clear out my mask. Alright. And so I just made my eyes a little bit more symmetrical. I'm just going to move this eyebrow up a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing again over here. You can see I don't have much of a jawline. I wish I did, but I just don't. So again, I'm going to give myself what my mom didn't. And I'm going to give myself some jaw. Alright, so we're going to do that on both sides. Now it is going to have to warp a little bit on the thing there, but... And then I'll go to my smudge. Alright, I'm going to give myself some Brad Pitt cheekbones here. Yeah, look at, oops. Again, don't go too crazy with it. I'm just going to have fun because, you know, why not? Alright, and then again, I'll just erase that all out. And you could go even farther with that if you wanted. I'm just going to leave it like that because I think that's probably good enough. And hit OK. Boom. Okay. So that's a little bit better. And then let's just... It's like bothering the crap out of me. Oops. No. Stay on there. There we go. Oh, I'm doing such a bad job. It's not like the one has it and the other one doesn't. It's like, I don't know. Okay. So if you look, right? So it looks like me. It just looks like a better version of me, right? It's, and there's things you could do on top of it as well, you know, like whiten the teeth. Maybe add a little bit more of a flesh color. So maybe I'll do this as well. Go to select color range. And then what you can do is you can sample a color. So I can sample this color. Or there's actually one for skin tones. And what that's going to do, fuzziness is basically the threshold. So the less the fuzziness, the less it's going to try and grab. The higher the fuzziness, the more it's going to try and grab. So I'm just going to, you know, go like that, I guess. We'll hit OK. And then again, I can do image adjustments. And then let's do, you can use any one of these things to kind of help you. I'm just going to do hue saturation. And I'm just going to saturate us up a little bit more. So we're a little bit more lively. Getting a little bit red there. All right. That looks better. And I'm just going to go ahead and merge that down again. I know I'm being destructive, but okay. And we're almost half an hour. So anyway, I would probably do them individually. But now you can see, right? So that's what the new one looks like. And here's the old one, right? Right? So handsome. Ugh. Right? Handsome. Ugh. Now just be careful if you use this on your Tinder account. Because you go on that date, they're going to be pretty disappointed. You better make sure they're only looking at you from profile, right? Find your good angles. But you can see this is a more improved version. But I probably went maybe a little bit too far. Some of the shine, actually, I think I should have kept. I'm not 100%. Well, anyway. But you kind of see it's a little bit better. Try not to go too nuts. So for this assignment, go ahead and go nuts. I don't really care. You know what I mean? Make yourself look like whoever the handsome or beautiful people are these days. I don't really care. Make yourself look like that person. I don't care. But if you were doing this for somebody, you should be really careful. So like little things like that liquefy, maybe do a touch of here and there. But you probably don't want to go too nuts. So for instance, for a, God, what was it? Christmas? I did a present and she had I had a photo that I put on Canvas for her, and it was her holding our child, but she was looking down at the child, and she had kind of, I don't want to say a double chin, but you know, your neck folds from looking down. That's natural. That's otherwise you wouldn't be able to look up because it would, you gotta have skin, right, in order to flex and stretch. Anyhow, she had that, and she also teaches Photoshop and stuff. So I had to make a decision: do I take that fold out or do I leave it? And I asked my class, and they said that I should leave it. I ended up taking it out, and she agreed with me. But something like that where you can remove a little bit of something, that's okay. But what I did right now was probably honestly a little bit too far. Maybe make it a touch more symmetrical, but like I wouldn't like maybe push the cheekbones out and things like that. All right. It's better to be, you know, very precise and don't go too nuts. Okay. But for this you can, because I don't really care. But in the future for clients and such, you know, they could be offended. All right. So that is that. That's roughly how you would do it. Again, you can see, right? A lot better. Let's go back here. All right. So, photo retouching. So what I want you to do is basically you need to do a photo retouch. So take a picture of yourself or somebody you know, whoever you want, and you're just basically going to do an edited version of them, like a portrait, basically. Of them improved. Now it can be a full body portrait. I'm fine with that too. It could be, you know, a medium shot where it's like the hips up, or it could be more of a close up of just the face. I honestly don't really care. Make sure it's a high quality photo, because if you try to get, if it's a low quality photo, even mine's honestly on the cusp of being, mine's probably too low res. But if it's too low res, then there won't be enough information there to really make it work well. So you want to get a really high res, nice quality image. But you're going to photo retouch. And then the other thing you got to do also this week is that final project. Final project can be whatever you want. I don't really care. It's up to you. All right. So basically you got 2 assignments to this week, although you should have been working on this the entire time. And I'm sure you have been. Make sure you're always doing the project cover sheets. You guys have been good about it thus far. Yeah, so you can kind of watch these videos. These are more or less what I did when we did these. But like I said, check out Flurn. They have a whole bunch of them. You might even want to subscribe. But good luck.